We're going down! Hold on!
They call it the end of the world, a place where two mighty oceans collide and countless sailors have met their fate. Cape Horn, the most dangerous passage on Earth. For centuries, this narrow stretch of ocean has been both feared and revered. To conquer it meant glory. To fail meant disappearing into legend. A test of endurance, courage, and fate. Those who dared to cross it were chasing trade, exploration, or glory. But many never made it. Cape Horn has swallowed ships whole, broken the will of even the toughest sailors, and carved its name into maritime history as the deadliest passage ever known. Cape Horn sits at the southernmost tip of South America, a lonely, wind-beaten rock rising from the sea. It marks the northern boundary of the Drake Passage, a violent corridor of water that separates South America from Antarctica. It's here that the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans collide head-on, creating one of the most hostile marine environments on the planet. The winds never stop. Driven by the roaring 40s, furious 50s, and screaming 60s, these are some of the most powerful winds on Earth. Westerlies that circle the globe uninterrupted. There's no continent to slow them down, no barrier to absorb their fury, and by the time they reach Cape Horn, they've built up unstoppable momentum, slamming into ships with hurricane-like force. The seas here can rise over 60 feet high. Waves don't roll, they crash, collide, and explode. Some come from multiple directions at once, creating chaotic swells that twist even steel hulls like toys. And beneath those waves, unseen danger lurks. Shallow seabeds, hidden rocks, and powerful ocean currents make navigation nearly impossible. Even today, with GPS and radar, sailors still avoid it unless absolutely necessary. But for early explorers, there was no choice. Cape Horn was the only gateway between the Atlantic and the Pacific. To reach Asia or to trade with the Americas, they had to go through it. And that meant gambling with their lives. The first man to round Cape Horn was Dutch navigator Willem Schouten in 1616. He named it after his hometown of Hoorn in the Netherlands, though many believe he should have called it something darker, like Hell's Gate. From that moment on, hundreds of ships tried to follow in his wake, but many never made it. Throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, Cape Horn became infamous as the ultimate trial for any sailor. Merchant ships, whalers, and explorers all faced the same relentless enemy: the weather. Records tell of winds reaching 90 knots, waves towering as high as 4-story buildings, and freezing rain that coated sails in solid ice. Ships often capsized or broke apart, their crews helpless in the freezing water, never to be seen again, their names lost, their wrecks swallowed by the depths. Sailors began calling it the sailor's graveyard. Even those who survived were forever changed. The experience left them shaken, frostbitten, and haunted. To round the horn was to stare death in the face and live to tell the tale. It became a badge of honor in the maritime world. Those who survived would wear a gold earring in their left ear, a silent token of what they had endured. And among sailors, there was an old saying, "Below 40 degrees south, there is no law. Below 50 degrees, there is no God." But what makes Cape Horn so violent? It's not just bad luck, it's geography and physics. The Southern Ocean is the only ocean that circles the globe uninterrupted, allowing wind and current to move freely around Antarctica, gaining enormous power. When that energy funnels through the narrow Drake Passage, just 500 miles wide, it creates a choke point of chaos. Add to that the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, the strongest ocean current in the world, which flows relentlessly from west to east, colliding with the opposing Atlantic currents pushing north. The result is colossal waves, spinning eddies, and constant storms that can appear out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly, leaving destruction in their wake. And then there's the cold. Icebergs, hail, sleet, and freezing spray can turn a ship into a floating block of ice within hours. Masts snap, ropes freeze, and engines fail under the relentless assault of wind and water. The temperature of the sea hovers just above freezing, giving anyone who falls overboard mere minutes before hypothermia sets in. No matter how skilled the crew or advanced the vessel, no one truly masters the Horn. You survive it only if it lets you. Over the centuries, Cape Horn has claimed thousands of ships. Among the most famous were the clipper ships James Craig, Dundee Star, and Anna C. Hall, all torn apart by brutal storms between 1890 and 1910. Then there was the British transport ship Isabella, wrecked in 1813. Its survivors were stranded for months on the desolate nearby islands, surviving only on seabirds and rainwater until rescue finally arrived. But perhaps no name captures the Cape's danger more than that of the USS Memphis. In 1916, while attempting to anchor near the coast, it was struck by a sudden, massive wave. Within minutes, the ship was torn apart, and more than 40 sailors lost their lives. Even today, divers still discover new wrecks resting in the cold depths, eerie, silent reminders of how merciless these waters can be. And with so many ships lost, came the legends. Sailors told stories of phantom vessels drifting through the fog, doomed to sail forever around the Horn. The most famous of them all, the Flying Dutchman, was said to haunt these stormy southern seas, a cursed ghost ship glowing faintly in the mist before vanishing into the tempest. To those who braved the passage, such tales were more than superstition. They were a reflection of awe and respect. Because at Cape Horn, reality and myth often blurred together, and every shadow on the horizon could be the ocean's next story waiting to be told. By the early 20th century, everything began to change. The construction of the Panama Canal in 1914 gave ships a safer alternative, and for the first time, captains could travel between the Atlantic and Pacific without risking the wrath of Cape Horn. Trade routes shifted north, and the once busy sea lanes around the Horn slowly fell silent. But for some, the Cape's allure never faded. To this day, adventurous sailors, racers, and explorers still take it on, chasing the same glory their ancestors sought centuries ago. In modern yacht racing, rounding the Horn remains a symbol of ultimate endurance and respect. Events like the Vendée Globe, a solo, non-stop, around-the-world race, force sailors to face the same unforgiving winds, the same freezing waters, and the same monstrous seas that once tested wooden ships. And despite all the advances in technology, GPS, weather satellites, and carbon fiber boats, Cape Horn still demands humility. It doesn't care how experienced you are, or how strong your vessel may be. The moment you forget who's in charge, the ocean reminds you, brutally and without mercy. Today, Cape Horn is more than just a sailor's nightmare. It's a symbol of endurance, courage, and the raw, untamable power of nature. At the very edge of the world, a small lighthouse now stands guard, its beam cutting through the endless mist. Beside it rests a solitary memorial, a massive albatross statue, wings spread wide against the roaring wind, dedicated to all the sailors who never made it home. Etched into the base are haunting words. I am the albatross that waits for you, who on the seas of the world perished, but who are not forgotten. Standing there, staring out over the furious waters, it's impossible not to feel small, to feel the weight of history pressing down with every gust of wind. Cape Horn reminds us that, despite all our progress, all our ships, and all our technology, we are still at the mercy of nature. The Cape doesn't hate, it doesn't choose, it simply is. wild, eternal, and untamed. Every ship that passes, every wave that breaks, becomes part of its story. For centuries, men have tried to conquer the sea, but here, at the edge of the world, it's the sea that always wins. The horn doesn't take out of malice, it takes because it can. And that's what makes it both terrifying and beautiful. Because in this place, nature reminds us of our limits and our place within it. The ocean never forgets, it just waits for the next chapter. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like, subscribe, and dive with us into more mysteries of the deep. Because out here, the past never really sinks, it just hides beneath the waves.